Hi everyone, today we're going to look at why running slower often feels so much harder. Now there are loads of reasons for this. I'm going to get into a little more technical information, but first off let's look at some of the structural things in our training that makes it feel tougher than it would otherwise do. So a lot of time people are running the easy runs either the day after a harder interval session, or they're running them first thing in the morning or last thing at night. Now, after an interval session or harder run, like a long run, absolutely your body's going to be more tired. Now there's some muscle damage going on, which is good, but it does make that easy run feel a bit tougher. But also, if we're running it in the early morning or in the evening, we might not be very well fueled, might be a little bit dehydrated, and we'll just kind of mentally fatigued or physically fatigued, depending on our work as well. So those are really kind of more obvious factors, more logistical factors into why we might feel more tired and why easy runs can actually feel quite difficult. Boredom is also another factor. So it depends on where you're running. A lot of the time our interval running routes vary a little bit more, our long run routes may well vary a bit, or we might be running those sessions with friends in club runs. Easy runs often are quite a solo affair, or if we're running the same routes, which do get very dull. The other side is we haven't really got to think. We haven't got to think about our technique very often. We haven't got to have that change of pace that comes with more interval-based sessions or some interval-based long runs. So there's also that element of just kind of tedium that kicks in with the long run, with an easy run, as well, which then you'll really think about how you're feeling. You may be stressing about the day coming up because you've got that mental capacity to think more than just to work and to put in a good shift of a run. Now, the other side of this as well is then the biomechanical side. So as we go through our easy run paces, we're going to impact the ground a lot less. We're not going to hit it anywhere near as hard. One of the things that happens when we contact the ground, particularly the Achilles, this is one of the ones that does this most, it goes through a stretch shortening cycle. Now, not necessarily the Achilles itself, the tendon, but we're going to look at the soleus muscle, which is attached to the Achilles. So all of our calf muscles go through a stretch cycle. So as we hit the ground, our calf ideally lands fairly vertically, or shin lands fairly vertically. The Achilles and calf muscles are then loaded, they go through a stretch cycle, and then they shorten and propel us and push us off. Now, when we run more easily, often that isn't the case. We're not hitting them as hard, so not having to store and then release as much energy, giving us that kind of advantage and that push forward that's non-energy based in terms of effort levels. So we're not having to work our muscles as hard to a certain point, or we're getting more return from the floor, from our ligament, from our tendon, as we run faster, which when we run slow doesn't happen anywhere as much. The other side as well, people's efficiency when they run slower is often quite poor, or isn't necessarily as good as when they're running a more kind of moderate effort level pace. The other same thing can be true when you do run hard, and that people tend to overstride a lot more, and again they're more inefficient. So there's a sweet spot in the middle there, which is where your interval runs will often come in, doing short repetitions of high speed, or doing longer repetitions with more controlled pace where you can be mindful of your technique. Running slower, often we see people really overstride, much heavier heel strike. Again, heel striking itself, as I've mentioned before, isn't a massive issue, but what it does do is it means that we're going to be landing further in front of ourselves often. So the heel strike is heavier from not so much the landing point of view, but it's more of an overstride. Foot further in front of our centre of mass, we see more heel contact with the foot, so maybe at this angle, rather than slightly flatter and more of a heel mound strike, at which point we get a lot less of that stretch shortening again. So again, the muscles, the tendons aren't doing as much work for us in that rebound effect. We're having to kind of muscle our way through our running style. So tedium, timing, and nutrition, hydration, and then also that mechanical factor is why an easy run it often actually feels a lot worse than a more interval-based, effort-based session. So it's normal to happen. So if you do find those easy runs are slightly tougher, don't worry about it. It's why I don't often go by heart rate necessarily on these, because the heart rate can be really low, but actually we're working quite hard and the muscles are really fatigued, so you need to listen to your muscle recovery and how your body is feeling. Work on effort level more than necessarily paces or heart rate even. Equally, I know when I come back with any sort of downtime, recovery time from an injury or anything like that, I run easy and the paces will be slower, but because of that my heart rate is significantly higher. So what is technically feeling otherwise fine, the heart rate's up. I'm not particularly breathing very hard, but because of that lack of effort, everything is working quite hard at the same time. So it doesn't really line up always in that way. So basically, it's normal for easy runs to feel slow, to feel harder than actually you might expect them to. Don't worry about it. Perfectly normal. I've given you the reasons why. So next time you're out there, think about how you can distract away from it. Think about how you can work on your technique, make them feel a little bit easier, be also a bit more distracted by 1 minute work on your technique and then 3 minutes of just relaxed natural running afterwards. You can do rounds of that. It's a great way to work on your technique, and also really nice way to distract yourself and actually make things feel a lot better. If you track the information via interval feature on your Garmin watch or other watch you're using, or if you just continue to lap your watch, you can see some patterns. You'll probably see your efficiency increase, heart rate drop, and actually potentially your pace pick up a little bit as well. See you soon.